Yep.
Testing. All right, cool. Sorry about that. I don't know why I froze up. All right, guys. So today, pretty good training. We're gonna mainly focus on kind of like in the past, sometimes we do these trainings where there's a lot of aspects of the listing process. There's, when you first get the listing, getting the listing, converting the listing presentation. Once you have the listing, what are you doing from when you get the listing agreement signed to when you go live with the listing? What do you do with the listing once you're live until you get a contract? And then, so there's a lot of different sections of maintaining a listing. Today, I mainly wanted to go focus on the consultation part of it, meaning the part where you actually speak to the seller. So wanted to go over that and just really focus on that. Before we get into how we speak to the seller and how we have those conversations, um, I wanted to go over what you should be bringing to the listing presentation. So I don't have the slides, guys, but write this stuff down. You now what I tell you, there's people that do things different. There's people that do more, do less, whatever it is. But what you typically want to bring is you want to bring a folder with certain things, and it doesn't have to be an element folder. If you want to come by the office, grab a folder, you could. It could just be any folder, doesn't matter. I like a folder that you could put your business card on. So you see, I just threw an example here of a business card. All right. So number one, you should have some sort of listing presentation. So this is an old one. We have a much better one now, but this is an old version of it that I just printed out real quick. Basically, the listing presentation is just kind of a pretty way to present what it is that you do, your marketing, your value proposition. We take photography, we put your property in, throughout, all social media channels. We talk about there, what's the objective, what are we trying to do? Um, it goes over your information, like a little bio about yourself. So I'll kind of jump a little bit on this. But you should have something like this. And if you don't, let me know. We have a copy of a generic one that you can print. And it's just kind of generic. It doesn't really have your information, or you can create one. We can create that same one, but just add a page with your information. You should also bring a listing agreement. Bring 2 copies of the listing agreement. I always like to bring 2 copies in case I'm able to get it signed there on the spot. I can leave them with a copy. Or if you never know, you might you might mess something up filling it out. Because when you take the listing agreement, a lot of times the purchase price, okay, is gonna be blank. Like it's not gonna be you might leave it if you haven't already agreed on price, you leave that blank because you're gonna discuss price and you want to make sure you agree to it. So you could always fill that out there, but what if you mess it up or something? You never know. It's just always good to have 2 copies just in case. So yeah, so you were gonna say?
You can leave a signed copy with the seller.
Yeah, true, and you can just sign it and leave a signed copy with the seller, whatever it is. So yeah, you can definitely, it's always just good to leave a copy with them. Next, you want to have a seller's disclosure. Take a seller's disclosure with you, and part of the thing that when we start doing the role playing and how you want to speak to them, I'll tell you how to explain that. But basically, the seller's disclosure is a document that you don't have to get it signed. Nothing says that you should do a seller's disclosure, but it's really good to protect you and the seller themselves. So in the case of a lawsuit, if a buyer suspects that you didn't disclose something, this document actually helps you. Unless you lie and they can prove you lie, then nothing's gonna help you. But if you don't lie and they think you're lying and you don't have this, then you can go to court and argument could be made. Well, you didn't say. How do we know you didn't say? How do you know what was your stance on this? So by filling this seller's disclosure, I protect them saying, hey, I put no, that's my stance. I didn't know this or whatever. So this is good to protect your client. A CMA, okay, you want to make sure you take a CMA. This one is from the MLS. So you want to make sure you take a copy of a CMA with you, because at some point when you're talking price, you're probably going to talk about the CMA and you're going to go, now you might not go so deep into this, but you want to leave them a copy. It's professional. It shows that you've done all this work. Really, at the end of the day, they stay with all of this. Like this whole folder, I keep it there. The only thing I take with me is if they sign the listing agreement, I take a copy of that with me. But everything else stays with them. And then finally, a seller net sheet, okay? A seller net sheet. So the seller net sheet lets the client know what they're gonna net more or less at the end of the day. It's a ballpark, so you'll see again how I go through it and how I discuss that with them and how I get them that estimate. So any questions about that? So we do a lot of we've done a lot of trainings on how do you do a CMA, how do you do the listing how to make your listing presentation. But today I didn't want to focus so much on that because I feel like we've gone through a lot of that, even though that we always got to continue to practice because we're always refining it. But again, just to recap, your listing presentation, which if you want a copy of one for you, email me and I'll get you like your own copy and we can put your information and all that stuff. Just email me. Listing agreement and seller's disclosure, you get these straight from Form Simplicity. You can pull them from there and download them and print them. And then your CMA and your seller net sheet. Am I missing anything? Do you guys, anything I'm missing? Anything you guys, is there anything you guys take? Anything you guys show, present? I'm trying to think if there's anything else we could say.
Because the CMA has the market evaluation, the comps and everything.
Yeah.
The listing presentation has the testimonies, information about you. So,
Right, like I think this essentially covers everything. So you want to bring those things to your listing presentation, make them nice in a folder, looks presentable. Now, just because you bring all this, like, do I go through all of this in a listing presentation? No, I don't. I don't go through all of this. There's so much to go through. Like, we're not giving them a 2-hour PowerPoint presentation on selling their house. You know, it's more of a conversation. It's more of a dance. It's more of building rapport with that client and letting them get to know you. And you can go a long way by just, instead of focusing so much on this, focusing more on building that relationship, having a conversation and making that connection. So you don't want to just be rambling on about this. By the way, here's another twist. Some agents put this like into a PDF and just bring an iPad or a laptop and they show it on an iPad or laptop. You can do that too. That's pretty cool. So yeah, so you want to focus on the connection. Don't focus so much on everything, but you want to look professional. That's what this all does. It just makes you look very professional. It makes me look like you did your research. It makes me, as a seller, it makes me feel like, okay, this person is serious and they know what they're talking about. This is a lot of, you know, they brought all this information. It's very well presented, and it builds confidence and trust into choosing you as an agent. Because sometimes, guys, you're gonna go into a listing appointment, and you know you got it. Maybe it's a referral, and that's fine. Or sometimes you're gonna go into one where you have competition, and oh, I have an appointment with the next agent in an hour, so we got to make it quick. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, we'll make it quick, sir.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
so yeah, like but you have to practice this, and even after today, guys, take time to practice this, or at least whenever the next opportunity comes. So you're not winging it, and you're not, you know, you're not just trying to figure it out as you go there. Practice how you're gonna go. So hopefully today will give you a good idea of the flow of how things go. And they always go different. You never know how it's gonna go. Like, you know, it's just always gonna go different when you're speaking to somebody. You're connecting with somebody, you're trying to have a conversation. You're not necessarily just trying to like, okay, I gotta say this and I gotta say this and I gotta say this and I gotta say this. Don't worry about it. You'll get to your points. You'll get to your points, which I'll kind of go through what I feel are like the main points you really want to hit and you want to talk about. Like for example, you want to talk about like, what are you gonna do for them? What's, you know, what is it that they need? And what are you gonna do to get them to where they want to go? You know, that's what they want to hear. They want to know, okay, how much can I sell my house for? How much money am I gonna get? And what makes you the right person to do that? How are you gonna make that more convenient, easier, smoother, all those things? That's it. And give a little bit of education, educate them a little bit on the process so that they get clarity and they feel like, okay, and my questions, this whole selling process was really cloudy. But after I spoke with you, it's now clear. That's how they should feel at the end. Now I got more clarity on what's going to happen. And all of a sudden they feel safer, they feel more calm, and they feel confident in choosing you to list their home. Okay. Any questions so far? No?
No.
Okay. All right, cool. So nobody on the chat? I hope you guys are listening. I know Eddie's back there. Hopefully he's listening. No, Eddie's checking. Eddie's checking his email.
I think it's great. I actually just found out. Hi guys.
Hey, hello.
I
What's up?
actually what's up? I just found out that we had those awesome folders. I had no idea, and they look gorgeous. So definitely thank you for that, because I think that's key. That's presentation, right? Like when we leave, they're gonna stay and they're gonna look through that. Because I feel like when you're there, you're not, they're just kind of listening, and then at the end when you're gone, that's when they're looking at everything, and first impressions
Yeah.
are definitely everything.
Yep, absolutely. So basically, let's jump into how we want to have that conversation. And we'll spend the next, 20, 30 minutes kind of going over it. Your listing presentation, unless you hit it off with somebody, it shouldn't last more than like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. I know some people go in there and they're in there for like 3 hours, and I don't know how you like. I just,
Anything to get
like
the
it
listing.
shouldn't take that long. But I get it. Sometimes they start rambling, and you start feeling like, well, damn, I don't want to rush out of here, because if I rush out of here, they're not gonna give me the listing. So I get that. You want to sit there and really listen to their needs and really build that connection with them and make sure they sit. But by the way, it shows them a lot to say that, hey, I got another appointment. It also shows them that you're busy, you're a professional, you got a schedule to keep. So don't be afraid of, but you gotta be, you probably want to wait, you don't want to necessarily be there 3 hours, but you don't want to be so fast out of there either. But the actual talk itself, maybe 30, 40 minutes, depending on how many questions they have. Sometimes people have a lot of questions and they have various scenarios. They have scenarios where they're moving somewhere else, they want to buy another house, they want to do this and that. So scenarios definitely can vary, but you just want to have a conversation and just kind of go through it and go through the answers. So I'm gonna do a role-playing session with one of the agents here. So we're gonna role play. I'm gonna be the realtor. She's gonna be the seller. Hold on, I'm gonna get some water because my mouth is dry, and then we'll get the ball rolling. But I just want you to act like a normal seller. Just put your mindset in the seller. You're selling a house.
Good, yeah.
Whatever you want.
I'm saving money today.
Yeah, don't be a person. You don't have to be a.
Well, that's so fun. You can't make it easy for her to be there. You have to fight for this listing, all right?
I want you to be an anxious seller that has a ton of questions. Sure. Be that.
I said I got you.
I'm manifesting a listing, so I'm gonna be using this soon.
All right. So the first thing that I do when I walk in is I try to make sure that that I look at the property, that I say hello, I greet, I get there early, and I try to greet the person, and I try to make sure I can see the property before we sit down and get into it. Now, do you have to do it that way? No. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Why doesn't it work out? I don't know. You walk in and the dogs are going crazy, something's going on with the kid. Oh, like, I don't know. There could be a million scenarios why sometimes you don't get to see the house first. But you try, a lot of people, if they're polite, they'll offer you, oh, you want something to drink? Oh, no, I'm okay. Do you, or sometimes if they offer me coffee, I'll say yes. And then I'll say, before we take the coffee, do you mind if we look around the house first and get familiar with it? And sometimes they'll say, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And then sometimes they might say, oh, no, don't worry, we'll get to that. And they're like, okay, so now I gotta, but it's okay. And what's the main reason I want to see the house? Because I've already looked at my comps and I've already determined let's assume I've never seen the house. I have price ranges in mind. I say, okay, if the house is badass, fully upgraded, everything's nice and neat, we're looking at this price point. We're going to be here. If the house is not that upgraded, kind of like mid upgrade, somewhere in the middle, some things are upgraded, some things are not, then I know I'm looking at this lower middle tier. And if the house is a complete mess and not upgraded at all, and needs extensive work, then I know my tiers are at the bottom. So I already did that research before I walked in. I looked at the comps and I said, okay, the more modern upgraded turnkey homes are selling around here. The mid ones are selling around here, and then the low ones are selling around here. Sometimes that might not matter. So there, there's been parts of times of the market where it doesn't matter what your house looks like, it's gonna sell up here. So, and if that's the case, then you already know that. You already know it, but it's still important to look at the house. And when you look at the house, I used to take notes a lot. Like I would be ready with my notes to look at certain things, take note of certain things. I would ask them, oh, how's your roof? How's your AC? What work have you done to the property? And I would take notes of that stuff. Nowadays, I don't really take the notes. So the last few times I've gone on listing appointments, I don't take notes, but I still ask all that and I keep a mental note. But to be honest with you, I probably need to go back to taking notes because sometimes I'll forget certain details. But I started doing that. I started just not even taking notes and just, but I recommend take some notes. It shows interest, it shows you're engaged, it shows that you care. So definitely take those notes when you're walking around the property and asking those questions. So you should ask, how old is the roof? How old is the AC? And ask for any work. And if you notice things, ask about them. If you notice, oh, I see this leak here, I see this, I see that, ask about it. Okay. All right. So imagine I walk in, I say, hey, how are you? Go ahead. Let's knock on the door.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Hi, I'm Victor. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I know I was referred to you by
My friend.
yeah, let's give him a name.
Juana.
Juana.
I was referred to you by Juana. I know I'm here for our appointment to talk about selling your home.
Yeah. I've lived here for 25 years, so this house means a lot to me. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I've done a few things. Do you wanna?
No, no, definitely. I understand that, and I understand, there's a big move and there's a lot of emotion. There's an emotional component to it. But don't worry, we're gonna do what we need to do. I know your main goals are to sell your home, get the most money possible.
Mhm.
And my plan is to do, make this process as smooth as possible. I know there's that emotional aspect to it, but I always like to think about it, you're closing this chapter, but you're opening up a new one. And I'm gonna also make sure that wherever it is that you are going, that you're gonna have a lot of great memories there as well, and you're gonna be happy at the end of the day. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, good. Can I see around the house?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So usually at this point, like she'll show me around the house, walk around. I might point things out. Oh, this is nice. I usually try to find something to like genuinely compliment and care about that we could maybe have some break in common. I don't know, if I see a pair of golf clubs, I see a painting on the wall, something interesting, I'll try to point it out. And maybe they talk about it, maybe it means something to them, maybe it doesn't, but we're just being nice. Oh, that's a great painting, whatever, so something like that. So tell me about the work that you've done to the house. What have you done?
So I did remodel the kitchen a few years back,
Okay.
and I remodeled the bathroom, but that's about it.
Cool. So as we're doing this, as we're walking through the house, I'm taking notes. Okay, so we got to upgrade a bathroom, upgraded. I'm taking a look at the bathrooms, looking at the rooms, checking out the closets. We go into everywhere. You're about to sell this house. You want to know everything about it. You want to know everything every detail about it as much as you can, guys. You want to, if you're selling a house, you're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, act like it. Like really, really, truly get to know the house as much as possible. The way I always did it is just put myself in the shoes. Like if I'm buying it, like imagine I'm buying this or I'm selling it. Like I want to know all the details about it. So then, okay, cool. So usually after we look at the house and we kind of looked at everything, we'll then ultimately probably make our way back towards the kitchen or living room area. I always prefer kitchen with a table because I just present that way better. If I can't put my folder on something and like be able to like just move, it's weird. So try to avoid situations where you're sitting on a couch.
Yeah.
Because I feel like those situations get a little bit, it's just less comfortable and it's too casual. You know, and we're talking about something important and serious. So always try to lead into the kitchen. If you get offered water, coffee, everything, I always say yes. I always try to just take it. Yeah, sure. Give me water, give me whatever. You know, because people are polite like that. And you wanna be okay to that. You wanna welcome that. So ultimately, once we sat down, I'll usually sit down and say, okay, Priscilla, so I know it's very emotional for you, but tell me about your real estate goals. Tell me what it is that you want to accomplish. Talk to me.
So I, I want to make sure that I'm getting the most that I can for my house.
Okay.
I want to save money, so I have interviews with other agents. But I want to know, what is it that you can do for me? How are you different?
Okay, I understand that. So clearly that's what's important to you is get the most money possible, right?
And I want someone that will, I want the new owners to preferably be a family and love my house as much as I did.
Okay, all right, cool. So that's pretty interesting and I appreciate that. And what we can do is, so whenever we do offers, like I'll make a point to like let you know like more about that buyer in terms of what they are.
Mhm.
I'll do a quick pause while we're role playing. So because she said money, which is some people will straight up tell you that, I'm gonna spend a lot more time on my presentation and things about that are about that. So we'll keep going. Okay, so let me show you a little bit about how it works. First of all, my main objective is to try to get you the most money possible for the least amount of time possible on the market with the least amount of stress and hassle. Like, I don't want you to have to stress and worry. So what I do is, I prepare you to list the house, get the home ready for sale. And then, I'm gonna show you a little bit about what I have. So here I have a listing presentation. I'm not gonna go so much into this. I'm gonna go a little bit into it. And I'm gonna keep this. You're gonna get to keep this. So if you want to review it all and whenever you have time, read it, you can. But I want to just show you a little bit about what we do. So my company is Element Real Estate. We've been around since 2020. We've done, I'm not gonna jump to get too much into our sales, but we've done over $500 million in sales for a brand new company. That's actually really, really great. Yeah, we have over 100 agents in our company, and so we do a lot of sales and we do a lot of collaborative, which helps. Why does that help? Because I'm able to give more exposure to your home, which we're gonna get into how much more exposure we can give. But I'm not gonna go into, there's a lot of more information here. When in your own time, you could read that, or you could log us on, or you can log through our website and take a look at that. But what I want to get right into is like, how do we stand out? Well, how do we get your home sold for the most money possible? Because that's what you said was important to you. So number one, it just starts with our marketing and what we do. So if you look here, we have our marketing plan, which for you guys in the Zoom, I'm showing something like this. So we have our marketing plan. So we have tasks that we do before we list. Number one, what's important is setting the right price. Making sure we don't want to necessarily be too low. We don't necessarily want to be too high. We want to make sure that our price is on point so that we can attract the most buyers possible. So there's a sweet spot of that, and we'll come to that number together. We'll have to agree at the end of the day.
Well, I know what my house is worth.
Yeah. Well, tell me what do you have in mind? What's the number?
I feel my house, I know my house is worth 800,000.
Okay, and how did you come to that number?
Have you seen the house?
No, but was it because a neighbor sold?
because
Have you done some research yourself?
I know my neighbor did sell for 790
Okay,
a few months ago. And I have, like I mentioned, I did
Okay.
upgrade the bathroom
Well-
and the kitchen, and that was very expensive.
absolutely. And if your neighbor, it's the next door neighbor, or is it?
House is down.
Okay, so that's a pretty immediate neighbor. So most likely your homes could be very similar. I know about that house, so we'll get into that. But absolutely, if that home sold for 790, there shouldn't be any reason why yours doesn't sell more or less close to that same value. So.
And I know I have a bigger yard than him too.
Okay, yep. No, you do. I did look at the lot size, so his lot size, your lot size is about 3,000 square feet bigger. So, absolutely. Yeah. So this assumes that I know the research, I've done the research, I've done the thing, I know what the comps are, which you should, guys, know. If the seller knows more about what has sold than you, like,
That's a problem.
if I were there seeing you, I'd be like this. I just facepalm like, I can't believe the seller knew more about the houses sold than you. So no, the houses that have sold, their prices, square footage, bedroom count, and lot size. That's very important. And how upgraded or unupgraded they are, okay? All right, so setting the right price, making sure, so, all right, so where do we stop? Oh, because you know your home is where your lot is bigger. Okay, cool. So we're gonna put that all into account. And when we get to pricing, we'll talk about that. So like another thing that we do is we're gonna order photography. We're gonna do professional photography, professional video, which is super, super important in getting your home looked at and getting it the most exposure. Again, the big idea of selling your home, the way we're gonna get the most money possible is we have to find that buyer that's willing to give us the most money possible. Okay, so we need to find the buyer out there. There's a buyer out there that's gonna be able to give you 800. There's tons of buyers out there that'll give you 500, 700. We gotta find the one that's gonna give you the top dollar amount that you're looking for, okay? So putting that into account, that's why it's important to make sure we have as much exposure as possible. And the idea is that the better pictures we take, the better we do our photography and we do our video, we can expand a bigger reach. Does that make sense? Cool. So we do all that take care of that. You know, it's nothing charged to you or anything like that. That's something that we pay up front and, you know, as part of our investment and getting into business with you. So then once we go live, we keep you posted. You know, there's going to be showings. We're going to, you know, so one of the things that you are going to want to always do that I recommend is tidy up around the house, make sure everything is clean, make sure that, you know, you keep things like that. So I would do a pretty good cleaning. And then that way it's just easier to maintain. That's typically what I recommend. And don't worry, you're gonna have time to like, I'm not saying do this tomorrow. You know, we're gonna have a timeline. So after today, if you agree to work with me, or after I know you have your other meetings, but after today, if you agree to work with me, if it makes sense for you, we would ideally be up live within 3 to 5 days, or probably like more like a week to play it safe. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds good.
cool. Just want to make sure I work with you. Okay, awesome.
So for the showings, do I need to be home? How does it work? I have a lot of valuables here and I don't want.
So basically for the showings, so anybody that comes with a real estate agent, sometimes people are gonna call, they have a real estate agent. That's gonna be majority of the cases. Sometimes people won't have real estate agents, so it depends. So if anybody does have a real estate agent, they would come on their own, being represented with their agent present, and giving them a tour of the house. This will be somebody that's professionally licensed, and I verify that, make sure they're licensed. I asked for that licensing information, verify that they are an actual licensed realtor, and then, you know, they'll come through.
Okay.
Okay, so they'll come through. If they don't have a realtor, then I would be here for the showings, and I would make sure that, you know, at no time, no stranger is gonna be in your house without a real estate agent.
Okay, is it possible to have someone, either you or from your team, at every showing?
Is it possible? Well, we could, yeah, we could absolutely work that out. You know, one of the things, if I would try to make sure that everybody's here. I would try to make sure that everybody can, I have an agent for my team to come to every showing, but if it's not possible, are you still okay showing it, or would you want to wait for a time that they can show it?
I would prefer someone from your team, but it can be a little bit
Yeah.
flexible.
And what I'll do too, listen, like I'll try, so one of the best ways to avoid like random showings like that and make more efficient for me and you is to do open houses. So I'll try to, so one of the things we'll do, part of our marketing plan is we'll do open houses so that we try to attract all the buyers to come at that time. By the way, one of the other great things about that is that if we can, you know, like let's say people want to see it during the week, but I'll tell them, hey, come on Saturday. And the idea that, you know, buyers see other buyers and they see more activity, it creates this sense of urgency.
Okay,
So that's another way that we can get buyers to come up on price and submit a stronger offer. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
cool. So once we list it, once we're live, the showings are gonna kind of go like that. Usually I will contact you, I'll text you, hey, these are the showings are at this time, or we're gonna do an open house at this time. One thing regarding the open house, just so you know, I typically try to, it's not good for the owner to be in the property. I know it sounds weird, but yeah, wait, I know it sounds weird, but it's usually not good because you want the buyers to be able to roam the property, give their opinion. And sometimes when the buyer's here, they feel like, I mean, I'm sorry, when the seller's here, they feel like they're not able to just take their time looking through the property. Same thing if a realtor comes, my recommendation when a realtor comes to show the property, it's just go to the backyard or go to another part of the house or walk the dog for a few minutes and let the realtor come in and do his thing because that way the agent, the buyers just feel more comfortable and can take their time.
Okay, so you'll let me know what time for the open house and I can just, how long are the open house? How long do I need to be out of the house for?
Usually 2 hours. The open
Okay,
house is 2
I can
hours.
make that work.
Yeah, so usually if you just leave the door open, I usually be here about half hour before it starts. And then I'll make sure I lock everything up, turn all the lights off, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a lot, again, there's a lot of things we go about. Another thing that, you know, and you can see here our marketing and the type of marketing we do. We're gonna put your property on all the big websites, which, you know, admittedly, that's something that every agent can do. That's not something that really stands out, but it is important because majority of buyers nowadays are on the internet, you know, so we'll be on Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Redfin, all the major websites. So I'm gonna leave you here and I'm gonna leave this here for you. So if you want, you can read through it.
No, that's all my value too. Zillow says my house is worth 800.
Okay, good. Well, if the neighbor's house sold for 790, then you should be right at that. I did want to talk to you about some kind of hurdles to selling the property once we do find a buyer. Okay, so once we do find a buyer, let's say, you know, we get the price you want, we agree to the closing date, all the terms, everything like that. We have two major hurdles that we have to get through, which is your inspection period and then your appraisal period, appraisal contingency. So your inspection contingency is basically the buyer has the right to inspect the property. Usually we'll put like 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
And during that period of time, they have the right to inspect, okay, and which they will. They'll hire a professional inspector to come through. And during that period of time, they are able to back out for whatever reason. So there's always, once we do get on their contract, like the job's not done, there's always that possibility that they might back out for whatever reason. You know, they have the right to inspect. If they don't like it, they don't see something. Now, at that same point, it's very common that, you know, and again, I'm gonna try to avoid this by all means because I'm gonna tell everybody up front if there's any issues with the property. But buyers will ask for a credit. They might say, "Oh, you know, I want $500 credit." Yeah, I know you don't like that. You don't like that.
No.
Yeah, and we don't have to. And again, everything's negotiable, and we don't have to do that. But sometimes it's very common if there are issues that we give a credit or we fix them prior to closing. And when I say a credit, I mean like a credit towards the buyer's closing costs. So that's money that's not going to go in your pocket, and it goes into their closing costs,
Okay.
to the buyer's closing costs. So, you know, that's a part when we get there. Your house looks pretty nice. I mean, you've upgraded your kitchen and your bathrooms are half upgraded, but overall it looks like it's very well kept and everything. But these inspectors always find stuff. You never know. There might be things wrong with the house that you might not be aware of. So that's something that we have to prepare for. And I'm not saying it's going to be a huge dollar amount. It might be a few $1,000s, it might be a few $100s. You know, so at that point, we'll figure out what makes sense for you.
Okay, well, now that you bring this up of the
Okay.
inspection, the roof is 12 years old.
Okay,
It did have a leak. I had it repaired.
okay.
AC is working perfectly fine. It's, you know, it's good. So
Okay,
we
cool.
should be fine.
Yeah, we should be good. I mean, if your roof, so you have a tile roof here, so usually those go 25, 30 years for insurance purposes. So I believe now it used to be 30. I believe they changed it to 25 now. So so 12 years old with a repair, that's not a major issue. I don't think, you know, we should have any issues with that.
Okay.
The main thing for the buyers is that it's insurable. That's usually the biggest reason why they would ask for a credit. But, you know, based on that information you're telling me, it should be insurable and that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So once we get past our inspection contingency, the next thing we also have to worry about is the buyer's financing being approved, which we'll vet. We always call the loan officer, make sure they're really well approved. But the reality is that it's out of our control, and I can't, you know, anytime I call a loan officer, I try to use my best judgment. But it could be that the buyer maybe is not well qualified. They're not going to tell me that, but that's what they always say. They always say, "Oh yeah, they're well qualified." So I like to ask certain questions to like, "Oh, so how's their credit? How much money do they have in the bank?" Things like that, to try to like really see if the loan officer really does know very well about the buyer and how well they are qualified. But during that financing period, if the buyer doesn't get approved from the loan, then they could cancel the contract and get their deposit back. And that period of time is usually like 20 to 25 days. So that's also something, but it doesn't happen very often. It happens a minority of the time. It's not a lot. But again, we always try to minimize it by talking to the loan officer and keeping communication with them.
So can I?
By the way, I want to pause. Like all this stuff I'm saying, the other realtor that's meeting with them probably doesn't go over any of this. So that's why you want to educate them and telling them. So go continue.
Okay. So even if I am under contract,
Mhm.
can I still show the house to other potential buyers? Because I do have a few
No.
friends that they're saying that they have friends that are interested
Yeah. So
in this neighborhood.
once you're under contract, like that's it. Like unfortunately, there's no way for you as a seller to get out of that contract unless the buyer breaks the contract. So I would say if you want to show it to them as a backup and have a plan B in place, sure, we could show it to them as a plan B. But there's no way if they say, "Oh, I want the house," there's no way to get out of the contract once you've agreed to something.
Okay,
So once
but
we
I can
agree,
still show just in case. Can we still show it?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we do to make sure that we have a plan B in place. That's what we do to make sure we have a plan B in place. And, you know, in case something like were to happen where the buyer's deal falls apart, or financing, or they back up for the inspection period, we have somebody right there ready to go.
Okay,
And one final thing that's also very important, it's tied to the financing of the buyer, it's that the contract is contingent on the property appraising. So what does that mean? So if we do get that buyer at 800,000, the buyers typically, unless they're cash, now if they're cash, we don't have to worry about any of this, but if they're financing, the lender is gonna send out an appraiser to the property to determine the value of the property. So how it works, and this is how it's gonna work too, when you buy your next place, the bank wants to make sure that the property is worth what you're purchasing it for. So if for whatever reason, and this shouldn't happen, but if it does happen and the appraiser says it's worth, let's say 775,
that's a problem.
right, yeah, it is a problem. Because then at that point, the buyer's only getting financed, they can still get the same terms, but up to 775. Now, at that point, that we're talking about $25,000 less, we have few options. We try to get the buyer to pay the $25,000 difference if they want to, we can try to dispute the appraisals, but that usually doesn't go very well, but we can try. Or we can lower the price or meet halfway with the buyer. So maybe we could meet at 790 or 780 or something like that, something that, again, if it makes sense. We're not gonna do, I see the look in your face already that you don't like that. So we're not gonna do anything that doesn't make sense for you. At the end of the day, like if this doesn't make sense for what you need to move on from the home, then we're not gonna do it. And I'm only setting your expectations for things that may happen that don't commonly happen. It shouldn't happen. Okay, so that's why we're gonna price it right, and we're gonna make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay, but it can happen, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Do you have any questions about this so far?
No, I think you've done a good job explaining everything.
Okay, so now let's talk about price and like where are you at? So I know you said that your home is worth around 800, but looking at the home, so that one that sold at 790, when you compare, I know you have the bigger lot, but that one had a lot more upgrades, like everything was done, kitchens, floors, they had a brand new roof, it had a lot of
This is sounding like a
upgrades.
price drop for you.
So, yeah, well, again, I just want to set your expectations and be real. I'm not gonna be that realtor that tells you what you want to hear. I'm gonna tell you what I think. So based on the comps that I looked at, if you look at here at other properties that have sold, you have your neighbor at 790, but it was fully upgraded. You have these two that also sold around pretty much just a few streets over, and they sold closer to 750. Okay, so listen, I'm not saying that we can't get 800. We might be able to, but I'm setting an expectation that it's possible that the appraisal might lower your point to this, because the appraiser's probably gonna take into account, okay, we have this one at 790, but they usually use 3 comps. So the appraiser's gonna look at the 790 but then he's gonna look at this one 765 and this one 750. So it's very possible that might bring you down a little bit, okay? Just, you know, again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. How do you feel about that?
It's not what I wanted to hear, but.
Okay, well, listen,
Can we still, I mean, I would like to try to get 800 for my house.
Okay.
So can I still, I would like
Okay,
to put
so-
it for 800.
So let's do this. We'll list at 800, okay? Let's give it 2 weeks to 4 weeks, okay? And let's reevaluate. Let's reevaluate after 2 weeks. Does that sound fair to you?
Okay,
So we're gonna list at 800. I'm gonna do all the marketing. I'm gonna do everything, the open houses. We're gonna do everything just the same. And if after 2 weeks, we feel like the activity is not there or buyers are just not coming through because maybe they're just seeing better options or similar options at a lower price, then we might want to evaluate potentially at that point lower in price. Or maybe we stay put, maybe we're patient. One of the things that I also do is I keep an eye out on what's the market. So, you know, selling your house, it's like you have competition. You have other houses around and you got to put yourself in a buyer's shoes. Like, think from the buyer's perspective. Okay, why would I buy this house at 800 when there's one here at 770 that pretty much is very similar? You know, maybe square footage a little smaller, a little bigger, but it's almost the same. So, you know, you have to look at it from that perspective, and that's one thing that I keep an eye on. Another thing that I always do too, again, it's just about being transparent, is that whenever buyers do come through, I ask for feedback. I ask for like, what is your buyer? I talk to the realtor, what's your buyer thinking? Like, are you, you know, do you want to put an offer? No, why not? What are they going to put an offer on another property? What's their mindset? And that way I can come back and I can say, hey, Priscilla, this is what buyers are thinking. This is the feedback we're getting. We can stay put at 800. And maybe when some of these other houses go under contract, we can, maybe now we're the only property and that helps us. But if new properties start hitting the market at that lower price point, it's only going to hurt us even more. And we probably should consider dropping price at least closer to what those other properties are for sale.
okay.
Okay.
I can live with 2 weeks.
And where are you looking to move to?
Up north,
Okay, and why are you moving up there?
I'm tired of Miami.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's too much traffic.
too much traffic? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane how many people have moved out down here and everything like that.
Yeah,
So are you gonna have a job over there or you?
yeah, I work remote, so.
Oh, so you go work, I love that. Love that. That's awesome. That's that freedom that you could just go wherever.
yeah,
Okay.
So,
Cool. So, you know, at that point, we'll figure out like, hey, you know, what's worth it for you? You know, like, do you want to keep dealing with all this traffic and all these things that are happening with all these people moving here and you know, everything that's negative about Miami? Do you want to just get to where you want to be and just be in your new place? And, you know, does that excitement excite you more? You know, you got to figure that out. But trust me that my job is I'm going to try to get you the most money possible. We're not going to leave any money on the table. So I think starting at 800 is good because we're starting high. And then if anything, we can reduce price a little by little until we get to a spot where we find that right buyer that says, hey, I want to get this, you know. So I don't want to leave any money on the table for you. I'm going to also leave you with this, by the way, so you'll have a copy of it.
well, now that we're talking about money,
Okay.
how much do you charge?
Okay, good question. So I was gonna get to that next. So usually what we do is we charge 6% commission. Yeah, so
Okay,
don't, you know, it's okay, but that's very normal, you know? So usually what we do is we charge a 6% commission. And how that works is, you know, typically commission would be 6% for me, and then we would give that other piece, that other 3% to a buyer's realtor. I mean, you get that?
wait, repeat? I
So
have to
usually-
pay
Yeah,
For another realtor also?
yeah. So usually the way it works for agents is I'm sorry guys, I'm trying to get her to ask me about a specific question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to get her to ask.
Yeah,
me.
no.
Oh,
but-
okay. Yeah.
I heard-
Pay me 6%, and then you said, then you gotta pay.
Yeah. So,
But I thought that we didn't have to pay buyer's agents.
oh, so you've heard about that. Good. So you're very well informed.
No.
Okay, so here's the thing, how that works is, you know, usually commissions have always been negotiable, forever, always. They've always been negotiable. But some people just thought, oh, this is the way it is. This is how I have to pay. This is how it goes, you know. I didn't, you know, the other day I found out that at BrandSmart, you can negotiate appliances. I never knew that. I just thought I pay the price. But now I learned that apparently at BrandSmart, one of their things are you can negotiate the TV, the fridge, whatever it is. So again, it's just about having knowledge and what you know. So we're able to commissions are completely negotiable. Okay, so you don't have to pay a buyer's agent. You could just pay me, but it's very, so here's the thing, if we don't pay a buyer's agent, we're gonna lose out on a pool of certain buyers. So there's gonna be certain buyers that are gonna say, well, since that seller's not paying commission, then I'm probably not gonna just go for that house because I have my realtor. And yeah, maybe I could pay my realtor a piece of the commission, but I can't pay them all of it. So usually the best way, again, it's all about exposure, and it's all about finding the right buyer. So in my recommendation, we can offer a commission, or we can just not necessarily offer it, but we can wait till offers come in and then we can negotiate at that point. Okay, so we can agree today to a 3% commission. Okay, that would be for my services. Or, and we can just say, okay, well, instead of committing to paying a 3% to a buyer's agent, let's just wait to see what kind of offers we get. And then at that point, we can determine that. So we can go either route. But my biggest opinion is at least offer something to a buyer's agent so that we can attract them. Because right now, the way it is, when I put a property on the market, realtors call me, and they ask me how much commission is being offered. And if we say that there isn't, like right away, they're just gonna say, oh, okay, well, you know, if you are offering, let me know, and they move on and they don't show it. So we don't want that. We don't want to lose out on that. One of those realtors could be the buyer that's going to give you your 800,000. That's why we don't want to avoid.
So I need to make sure that when everything is done, that I have enough so that because I want to use this money
Okay.
to buy my new home.
Right.
So if I need to, obviously I need to pay you,
Right.
and apparently we still have to pay buyer's agents, which that was very misleading. I need 500,000 in my pocket and I still owe money on this house.
Okay.
So,
So how much money do you owe on the house?
like about 180, 190, I want to say.
Okay, so let's just say 190. Okay. So so I knew this was gonna come up, so I have a seller net sheet prepared that shows you how much money you're gonna walk away with. So hold on, let me adjust this real fast. So 75. So you weren't planning on possibly paying that other agent commission, and you might not. By the way, there's always, there's possibilities that maybe, the buyer's agent, the buyers pays the realtor's commission,
What
but
if I bring a buyer? What if I have a friend and she wants to buy my house?
okay, so at that point, we can negotiate. If you're able to find the client, then we would just do the 3%. If one of your friends, because you told me earlier, one of your friends might want to buy the house, then in that case, we could just do the 3%.
And
Would
do
they
you-
don't, so they wouldn't have a realtor.
No,
Yeah.
would you represent her?
Yeah, I mean, I can guide her through the process. Make sure everything is good and facilitate the transaction. And if she has any questions, she can ask me. At the end of the day, I'm looking out for you. I want to look out for your best interest. But if you want me to just guide her through the process and, communicate with her and work with her, yeah, I can do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
3%.
When we get to that point, we can negotiate that. It depends on how much work is necessary. That's how I look at it. Like, listen, I'm a business just like any other business. It just depends on how much work and time is necessary. Like all this stuff that I just went over that I'm doing for you, my service is worth 3%. But if now I have to start doing a lot of hand holding with your friend, following up with the lender, scheduling the inspection, scheduling the appraisal, making sure she puts the money in escrow, make sure she did the bank application, answer questions about all those processes, I'll probably negotiate, say, let's do more, and maybe she can pay for that. Maybe it doesn't have to come out of your pocket. Again, everything's negotiable, and at that point, we'll figure out what makes the most sense.
Okay, so how much am I walking away with paying?
Great question. So I have a seller net sheet here, so I'm gonna adjust the number a little bit. Because you told me you owed 500, but for some reason, you said 500, right? No, you said 190.
Mhm.
Yeah, our number was a little off there. Okay, so here's the seller issue. By the way, I'm gonna leave you with a copy of it so you can see the breakdown of what your closing costs are gonna be. So your closing costs essentially, so we have, let's assume 775. I know we're trying to shoot for 800, but let's just assume I like to, how's the saying go? Under promise, over deliver, you know?
Okay.
So that's my goal, is to always under promise. I never want you, or no client has ever said, oh, Vic, you told me this and it's less. Like, no, like I always under promise and it always over deliver. So trust
Okay.
that. So 775 minus your $190,000 mortgage, that leaves you with 775. And I'll pick up the calculator right in front of the client and just do it if I have to. So that leaves you with 585. So we're looking good. So 585. And then after that, you just have some of your closing costs. So you have, your closing costs are not that major. The biggest thing is gonna be the commission, and your stamp taxes on your deed. Do you know what that is?
No.
So that's basically like a tax that you have to do. So if anybody who sells their house in the state of Florida has to pay for the tax.
Okay.
So, basically it's for every $100 of your purchase price, it's like 70 cents.
Okay.
Or if you're in Dade County, it's 60 cents. So basically that comes out to $2,730. You also have a settlement fee, so there's usually gonna be an attorney or a title company that does the closing. I put $895. Now, these numbers, they could be $100 one way, $100 the other way. So these are just more or less estimates.
Okay.
Except for the stamp tax on the deed, that's actually based on, the purchase price.
Okay.
Another thing that you have to pay, title search and lien search is customary in South Florida, that the seller pays for that.
And what is that?
So basically, you're paying for the title company that the buyer has. They're going to make sure that there's no liens, there's no code violations, there's no expired permits, there's no issues with the title of the property. So that typically is about $500 total. It's probably less. It usually runs like maybe 300, 325. But again, I had to put high numbers, worst case scenario, just in case.
Okay.
After that, we have your real estate taxes prorated. So basically what's gonna happen, so right now it's February. So let's just assume right now it's January. Let's just assume we're gonna close in March, okay? You're closing March, you get the keys, buyer comes in. Now taxes are due in November for this year that just passed. So that bill is gonna be paid by the new owner. So it's not fair that they pay for the full year because technically you had the house for about 2 months or more or less. So 2,730 would be for, I'm sorry, 2,594 would be for those taxes.
Okay.
After that, the commission, like I said, 17,550. And then I have 400 miscellaneous, so miscellaneous is just like in case you have, like the title companies, usually they'll charge wire fees and like little recording fees, and things like that. So I usually like put like 400. Like if you have to have somebody come to your house to sign your closing documents, they usually charge you a fee for that. So all in all, like miscellaneous fees and stuff, like $400,
Okay.
So all in all, we have 24,569. So if you deduct the 585 that we said earlier, you'd have, after you pay off your mortgage, minus 24,569, you're looking at 560. So you're looking at, so all in all, you're looking at walking away with 560,000, It's a little higher than that, but you can count on that. And that's if we sell at 70.75, so it could be better than that.
And that's with your 3% commission.
Yeah, absolutely. So that still works. And you'll be able to walk away with what you need,
Okay, so if we need to pay the buyer's agent, how much would I walk away with after?
So if we need to pay the buyer's agent, so listen, so if a buyer's agent comes, we could probably negotiate it to at least 2.5, maybe 2%. So let's try to see if we can do it at 2.5. So that would be Sorry, so based on 775 times 2.5. That would be, so you would walk away, you would go from 560 to about 540.
Alright, I still have my.
Yeah, it still leaves you above, and again, that's based on 775, so it's based on a lower number than what I know we're targeting, but I want to prepare you that it might be around there. But I think with our marketing and the way we do things, we can probably find that buyer that's gonna give you the 800 or close to it. I'm more concerned about the appraisal possibly bringing us down, and it's not something we can always control. Well, we can never control it, really. So, but we'll get there when we get, like, my biggest thing is, let's take things at a time, let's prepare. But we have to figure that out when we get there. We can't worry about it, because maybe the appraisal comes great and we don't have to worry about it, you know? So let's not, let's prepare and let's keep it in mind, but we don't necessarily have to go crazy about that right now.
Okay,
So I'm gonna leave you with all this information. I know you said you have to meet with another agent. This is our listing agreement. It's probably gonna be very similar listing agreement to what any other agent will do. It's gonna be in here. Basically, the next steps to like start the process and start working with me would be to get this listing agreement signed. Once you sign this, it's ready to go. And basically what this all says, I know it's like a bunch of pages and there's a lot of clauses and things, but basically what it allows us to do, it allows us to market your property. We represent you exclusively in the sale. So we are like your representative out in the open market of real estate. So it does that. It lays out the price. It lays out the commission that we discussed. There's also, in the event it happens, there's a cancellation fee. Our cancellation fee, it's let me see what we put here. I'll tell you right now. And the reason I put that there is because we have expenses. I'm gonna do the photography. I invest into selling your property. We run ads, we do open houses, that we spend money on the things for the open houses. So there's a lot of expense that we put into it. The cancellation fee is 350 that we put, which is it essentially, it doesn't even, honestly, it's not even gonna cover everything that we spend, but yeah, but that's our, in case something happens, you change your mind.
the last
I just
letter.
want you to know that for whatever reason you cancel. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think you'll be very happy with how we work and our service. But just in case, that's also there.
Yeah, the last vote cancellation fee was $1,000.
Wow, really?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, some agents. So did you pay $1,000? Did you cancel it?
No, that was one that I interviewed.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, honestly, that's honestly, it's up to the agent. I understand that things happen. First of all, I know you're not gonna be unhappy with my service. So if you need to cancel, it's probably for a real legitimate reason that you probably need to cancel. So I just like to at least recuperate my minimal cost that I invested. Which again is probably more than 350 right now. The way things are going, it's a lot more. But that's fine. We'll just keep it at 350.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
So keep me in mind. I hope to hear from you. I know you're gonna interview. By the way, you don't have to interview that other realtor. If you want, you don't have to interview them. You can just sign right here. Because I know you like that presentation.
No, you gave me a lot of information, so thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
But they are about to get here.
Yeah, no, I see they're already pulling up. I see the cars. Okay, great. Well, listen, my card is here. We'll keep in touch. When do you think? So are you planning to interview today and that's it, or you have more?
Yeah, I just want to get this process over with already. It's extremely overwhelming. I want to get over it. So today is the last day, so.
So when is a good time to follow up with you? you want me to-
I'll call you.
Okay,
I'll
all
call
right, cool.
you.
Alright.
I should know by today or tomorrow, so you should be hearing from me. if
Okay,
anything.
cool. So I'm gonna leave this to you here. I'm also gonna email it to you in case it makes it easier for you to look at it. So you have copies of everything in your email, and then we'll touch base tomorrow if you're gonna call me, or tonight. Let me know. All right, that's
Thank
it.
you so much.
All right. All right, guys. So that's it. That's kind of how it goes. I don't try to pressure them, and like you could try to do that. Oh, let's not meet with the other realtor, but you're not always gonna win that, especially if the realtor's right there. Like you're not gonna win that. Sometimes you might, like they might be so impressed. I've had, when I leave the presentation, like 10-15 minutes later, they call me, hey, we don't want to interview that other realtor. But if they're back to back to back and the realtor's already there, then it's not gonna work. But I hope you guys, my bad, I haven't been looking at the chat, but I hope you guys got something good from that. Again, that's not the only way to go about it. That's not the only way. Sometimes with higher end clients, you might need to go a little more in depth into your pricing. But at the same time, it shouldn't be so much. Man, it's already 12:42, so we went on for a while.
Yeah, you did more than 40 minutes.
Sorry, guys.
No,
But I hope you listened to that and it helped you understand how you speak to the sellers and how you communicate. And again, I was just going off whatever she was saying.
Yeah,
I was being genuine, smiling, laughing about things like, because people might make that face. She was making a face when I said the prices, and
Yeah, but
people do that in real life.
but when she told you 800K, you laughed at it. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't mean to laugh. But, yeah.
Like, how good.
Yeah, and then I just thought of the scenario. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I know sellers like to think their house is worth more. There's scenarios.
So what do you do if it's like super unrealistic, like compared to your comps? Like, are you gonna wanna take that on?
Yeah, so if it's very unrealistic, I just make I make a business decision if it's worth my time or not. I make a business decision. So here's how I make that business decision. I start thinking, okay, can I do open houses here? Is this a good neighbor? Is this a good neighbor to door knock? Can I do some extra business by having this listing? And then if they do, they do. Listen, I don't know if you guys watch what's that show on Netflix, Selling the City or whatever, Selling Sunset?
Yeah.
They don't say no when they I want 50 million for my listing. They don't say no because they know having the listing will still
Yeah.
get them some exposure in that market, and they can do brokers opens and this and that. Same thing for you guys. So
Yeah.
now my biggest thing is, can I eventually get you down if I need to? Can I eventually?
Realistic are you?
And that's why I asked her, where are you moving? What's got you moving over there? Her motivation was, I hate Miami. That's not really that strong of a motivation.
Yeah.
I
But
couldn't think of one right now.
no, it's okay. But like, did they? So I gotta play on that. So I gotta play. So now I'll start being like, hey, where are you going? Up north? What state? And I start, giving her. I might send her stuff. Hey, here's how the market is in North Carolina or wherever you're moving to. So yeah, but if it's unrealistic, I just have to make the business decision. Is it worth it? Or are you just absolutely crazy and some sellers just want us list to see if a local comes around and gives them what they want. I don't want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
Again, unless I know I can do open houses. I know I can do some door knock. It's a great neighborhood. Maybe it's a great neighborhood where I can get more listings. So it just depends. But there's times where I say no. There's times where I'll be like, okay.
Do you get the bottom dollar? Like, I know you asked her and you ran her numbers. There was like, you stayed at 560, so there was a little bit of wiggle room. Would you ever at any point say, okay, for 500K, like after everything, this would be the bottom dollar? Are you willing to go that low? Like, do you ever get the bottom dollar?
Well, in this case, I felt like I just told her, well, there's comps at a lower price point. So I don't know what that bottom dollar is, but I think that's the worst case. So 5.7. So I kind of ran the numbers on the seller net sheet based on 570. I'm sorry, 775, not 800. Why? Because I already came in thinking this is worst case scenario, sort of. So I'm kind of doing that. I usually will do my seller net sheet, not a horrible number, but sort of like less. You don't want to, you don't want to be too low. And if you want, do two seller net sheets. Do one with like best case scenario seller net sheet, and not necessarily worst case, but like, a little less.
But for the
You don't want to do worst case because you don't even want to throw in a super low number that might say this esta persona está loco. Like,
But for the
you know.
most part, when you're going into these listing presentations, you already have a number that they essentially want. So it's your job to come in with a more realistic view, like, hey, I know this is what you want, so these are the numbers based on this, but based on the market, this is realistically where we're at.
yeah, by the way, guys, this is sometimes and again, today's training was to focus mostly on this part of it, but usually you have a phone conversation before you meet with them. And at that conversation, you try to ask what price do they have in mind and things like that. And usually they'll give it to you. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not sure. We'll talk about it when we meet. But yeah, usually you have a price in mind.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
When you were explaining to her, when we receive offers that, or about when we're under contract that it could still potentially fall through if the buyer's financing portion doesn't go through.
Mhm.
Are you able to secure your seller by telling, but when we receive offers, we can ask for them to give us their bank statements or something to make them a stronger candidate so that you could feel more
Absolutely.
comfortable signing with them?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like that's something you could kind of tell.
I
your
will,
seller so it
I
doesn't
would
work.
throw that in there, but also throw in that sometimes the buyers won't be willing to, or you can ask for what is called a DU.
Yeah,
Yeah, a DU is, will say the bank, but then, loan officers can fake that too, whatever, they can, anything could be faked. You
yeah.
just have to trust it and hope it's right,
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely, that's a great
To
question.
kind of make the buyer.
So that would have
the
been,
seller
that would have
feel
been a
more-
great thing to add, that, well, one of the things we do is we ask for a DU. Do you know what a DU is? They're like, no, oh, well, you'll probably learn it when you start your purchase of purchasing. But a DU is basically it's like a very detailed pre-approval letter of the buyer's financials. It says their credit score, it says how much money they have in the bank, things like that. So we'll know that they're much better qualified.
And if their financing doesn't get approved after we got a DU, we could kind of question the lender, like why, or no, you can't, but like you should be able to, but you can't really.
I don't know, you wanna put your input? Yeah.
Alright. Heard the you.
What questions do they have? Naja?
I heard the you.
But I was asking like to make our sellers feel a little bit more comfortable, we could say that when we're receiving offers. We could ask for a DU so that the seller could feel comfortable like getting into a contract with someone, hope it doesn't go through when the financing portion comes. He was telling me lenders unfortunately could fake DUs. I said, if the financing doesn't go through, you could kind of challenge that way. You give me a DU, he had a good credit score, he had money in the
Oh.
bank, he had this, that, what
I
happened?
mean, realistically, yeah, you could challenge it, but it's almost like still like a pre-approval letter,
Yeah,
pre-approval. Cause it's not a fully underwritten file yet, cause if we're under contract and I give you a DU. Like, Victor said he's right, like you can manipulate that DU. Like,
Yeah.
let's
It's
say
a computer, you're
a client
inputting.
makes $100,000 and I can put, $200,000.
yeah,
From the DU and it's like, oh, approved, super approved, and
Got
it,
it.
and then you can manipulate the DTI or the down payment too. I could put, let's say the guy only had Chase of like $30,000, I can put Bank of America, $60,000-$70,000 extra, and then all of a sudden the DU would be like, oh, he loves the scenario, good to go.
yeah,
The only thing you cannot manipulate is the credit scores, right? Because we have to pull like an actual hard copy of hard credit inquiry, and then the DU reads that, so that you can't mess with.
okay.
So like for what it's worth, I mean,
But it's good, because we could even be open with our sellers and tell us, look, it could be manipulated. I like to put everything on the table.
Yeah,
but
because
it-
I had a seller once complain with me, he was like, well, I thought we have proof of funds. Like,
That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
he showed me proof of funds, but how I can't call the bank, can't call the bank and verify
Yeah,
how much money somebody has in the bank account. I can't do that.
So as a listing agent, you can just straight up be like, hey, send me a DU?
Yeah.
Or is there a certain verbiage that you need to
Yeah,
have?
you
I
can
can ask
ask, and
for
it's up
whatever
to,
you want.
and it's up to the lender to give it or not.
but yeah, it's up to, like, we're not supposed to, and then even on the fine print, it says this is not to be given out to anybody. But,
I've
Some
seen that broker
people-
remarks where it says, please submit your offer with this, that, and a DU.
Agents just don't know.
Yeah,
They,
I've
but
seen
you're
the
not allowed
broker
to
remarks.
give
I mean,
them.
I don't know the legality of that, like, can you ask for that? Sure. You can ask for whatever you want, are you gonna reprimand it? Probably no,
No,
but if
yeah.
that lender does supply that, their
They could
name
get in
is on
trouble.
there somewhere.
Yeah, we don't get in trouble for asking for, they get
Oh,
in
we're
trouble
on the
for
hook.
providing it. They're on the hook.
Then we
It's
should
a-
ask your preferred lender to double check that information to make sure that it's.
Yeah,
it's
I've done
accurate.
it.
Yeah,
all
like,
the time.
check the
I've
other
done it
lender.
before. I'm like, hey, can you look at the U? What do you think about this?
That's
I've
a
done
good
it.
idea.
Yeah, if you can, if they give, and sometimes you don't even ask for it, they'll give you it to you.
Yeah,
Cause that's just how that realtor is like, oh, my lender always gives me a DU for everything. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
cool, whatever. So if you get it, just send it over. I don't mind looking at it to be
Okay.
like, yo, it looks good, cause I can tell if it looks sloppy.
yeah,
Like if you see Bank of America 40,000,000, shit, did they actually validate that?
yeah.
Or is it $39,252.62? I'm like, oh, shit, and then the income is like specific number to the T with, commissions to the T, and then you have a little, then I'm like, oh shit, this guy's on point.
And again, for the people who, this is to protect our sellers, so that they don't go on, take it off the market, do all of this, and then the financing doesn't get approved because we got a fake DU, like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's never 100%, but it does minimize the risk
Oh,
a
the-
little bit
yeah.
to be like, okay, this guy does have a good credit score. It does, assuming that the information they put on there is correct, then it looks like they are gonna be get approved, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
unless he leases a car, and then we're fucked.
right. 'Cause you can also ask, oh,
Excuse my French.
proof of pay stubs too, proof
Yeah,
of W-2, proof
that's
of
what-
driver license, proof of everything, you want, you want the credit report too, like,
Yeah,
which,
Okay.
you know, so
okay.
that
cool.
helps answer.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. I got some questions on the chat. Do you like to be first or last? Obviously, I would like to be last, but sometimes when
you.
you're scheduling an appointment with them, you got to remember to ask, like, oh, like, you know, are you interviewing other agents or do, but I don't know. Sometimes you just can't control that,
Yeah.
but sure, last will be great. You would ask if they are open to a referral agent where they are going? Ah, yes, good one. Thanks, Danielle. So she's saying, ask if they're open to referring an agent wherever they're going. And then you could look up an agent over there and ask for a percentage of the referral fee. So that's also great point. Absolutely, Danielle, that's awesome. But yeah, I would ask that. I would normally try to ask that. Maybe not necessarily on that first meeting, maybe not, but once I do, but I think it's helpful
Yeah,
to let her know that we can provide that. So I would maybe mention it, but not get so deep in it. I would mention it, by the way, you know, I can help you, refer you to a great agent in that state or that city, wherever they're moving to, that can help you out. So yeah, good point, Danielle. All right, guys, so if no other questions, I hope this was a good session. I know it ran long, but I didn't even realize while we were talking that
But
it
that's how.
ran that long,
Yeah.
but it was good. I hope you guys got some stuff out of it and you guys gotta practice it, perfect it. I used to practice doing that by myself, just like talking to myself and like on a table and doing it myself. And little by little, it connected better and it just got better with time. So, all right, guys, thank you. And I'll keep you guys posted on any new trainings and everything else we have going on. Okay, guys? All right, Vic, thanks for showing up. Judy, thanks for showing up.
Dale, Pablo, cuídate. Thank you
All
again.
right, brother, we'll be in touch soon. I got you. Dale.
Yeah, sure, dale.
So, sure. I'll give it a chat.